Now we need to understand why the data is not saved in the database. If you see the database here, the table is there but no data here, right? Not, I said session not saved. It should have fired an insert query, but it didn't fire. Even on the console, if I show you, for me, see insert query also I am able to see, right? But if I see, if I refresh here, I am not seeing. I am not seeing. Now tell me, if you are using JDBC, by default auto commit is true or false? By default auto commit is true if you are using JDBC. You have to set auto commit to false if you want to start a transaction. Right? By default auto commit is true if you are using JDBC. But when using Hibernate, auto commit is false. The data will not be committed automatically. You have to commit it explicitly. Right? So the problem here is, in our code we never started a transaction and we didn't commit it, right? So the problem here can be solved by saying session dot begin transaction. It is returning an object of transaction. Transaction from arg.hibernate. Don't take the default one, java x.transaction. Take the one from arg.hibernate. Tx is equals to. So this will begin a transaction, and after session.save I will say tx.commit. Now I will run it. Let us see whether it will be created or not, whether it will be inserted or not. Yeah, now insert query has been fired, and now I will go to database and click on this refresh button. Yes, user ID, it has been created, right? Okay. So the problem was I didn't start a transaction and also I didn't commit it. Now once I committed it, it has fired the query, right? Now once we have done a very basic program, let us understand what is actually happening internally inside Hibernate, right? Okay, just for some time, just look here. Okay, answer my question. Once I said open session, I said Hibernate session is started. Guess, do you expect that a database connection is open at this line? Hibernate is it internally connecting to database at this line? Once I say open session, no. Connection to database is not established once I say open session. Once I say factory.open session, what is happening? See here. Yes, it will create a session object. Session, is it an interface or a class? Interface, right? Okay, but implementation also is there inside the Hibernate API. Once I say open session, session object is created. Object of its implementation is created. Assume that this is the session object. This session object is created. Inside session object, there is an instance variable called persistence context. There is a variable called persistence context. It will be pointing to another object of type persistence context. This is the persistence context object. Now we need to understand what is this persistence context object, right? Let me explain you clearly again. Once I say factory.open session, session object is created in memory. Session object looks like this. Session object is created. Internally it has an instance variable of type persistence context. It is pointing to an object of persistence context. Now if you try to understand what is this persistence context, persistence context is just like a collection. You know about a lot of collections like sets and lists. Collection is an object which can hold the references of other objects, right? So here persistence context is also acting like a collection which can hold the references of entities, right? Persistence context is just like a collection which can hold the reference of entities. Now in our example here, if you can see, Once it's a factored open session, persistence context is created internally. And persistence context, is it having reference to any entities right now? No, persistence context is empty, right? Now after that, what I did, I started as transaction, right? Once I say begin transaction, here a connection to database is established. Transaction is started by using that connection, right? So internally, can I say that Hibernate is internally using JDBC only? Yes, of course. Once I say begin transaction, it will say driver manager dot get connection internally, and I'm saying this will start transactions, right? Internally, it will say connection dot set auto commit false. So whenever I am beginning the transaction, then here at this line, connection is established, right? Connection is not established at this time. Only a session object is created, right? Now once I say session.save, the next line, what this session.save is doing is, it is not firing the insert query immediately. Session.save will just give the reference of user object here to persistence context. That's it. Okay, see the diagram now. This is a user object. This is the user object. The reference of user is given to persistence context. Once I say session.save, the user reference is given to persistence context, and query is not fired immediately. Query will be fired only once you say transaction.commit. Once you say session.save, the reference of user is given to persistence context, and also the insert query will be queued. Insert query will be kept in queue, right? But whatever in the queue will be fired only after commit, right? Okay. That is what is happening in this example. Once I said session.save, the object is kept inside persistence context, and insert query is queued. Queued, not fired. Session.save will never fire the insert query. It will just queue the query. Once I commit, then only queries are fired. If I don't commit, queries are not. Okay. Okay. Next thing here we need to understand, this persistence context is also called as first level cache. What is the cache? Cache is temporary location where we keep the frequently used data, right? So this is said to be first level cache. I said Hibernate is having two levels of caching. This is a first level cache. We'll talk about second level cache slowly. This is a first level. Internally, if you go internally, we say persistence context is a first level cache. But we never use persistence context directly. We always operate with session object, right? Generally, we say that session object holds the first level cache, right? Session object is having persistence context. Persistence context is having all the entities, right? So generally talking, we say that session holds all the first level cache, right? But actual first level cache is what? Persistence context is the actual first level cache, right? Now, what is the advantage of first level cache? What advantage I am getting? We'll see slowly through examples. Okay, you have understood the basic thing of session.save, right? Now, let us try to understand how to fire select queries. So, in that example, I'll tell you various other things. Now, what I'll do is I'll not disturb this example because I'll come to this example later. I'll create a new file, select demo. You can also create it. I'll take main here also. Then here I'll just copy these lines. These lines are very common. Configuration object is very common. These lines are very common. So I'll copy paste the same lines here inside main. I didn't copy that user one. These lines I copy paste, right? Now I'm going to show you how to fire select query. Now there are various ways to fire a query. By using HQL Hibernate query, I can fire a select query. By using another API called as Criteria API, I can fire a query. And also by using another thing called as query by example, QBE we can fire a query. And also by using session, we can fire a query. There are various ways of firing a query. Right now what I will do is, by using session, I will show you how to fire a query based on primary key. Now I want to get a user whose ID is 3. In my database there is a user whose ID is 3 here, right? Now I want to get a user whose ID is 3. Based on primary key I want to fire a query. So how to do it? See here, session dot get. There is a method called get. I am asking the Hibernate to get which entity has passed a class file. User dot class, and the second parameter is of type serializable. The second parameter is nothing but primary key 3, and a pass is serializable object. But 3, is it serializable? Here auto boxing is happening. Primitive type can be converted to wrapper type. It will be converted to integer object 3. Okay, session dot get. What is the return type here? Object. But I know that I'll be getting a user object, so I'll typecast it to user object. Then I'll just try to print system.out.println user.get first name. Now let us see what is happening once I say session.get. Run it. Yep, you can see a select query is fired based on the primary key, right? Did I write any HQL Hibernate query right now? No, I didn't write any Hibernate query, but session.get has fired a Hibernate query internally. Later we'll see how to fire our own HQLs. Okay, so by using session.get we can fire a select query based on primary key. Okay, any doubts? I have a question here. I said whenever I use session.get, it will fire a select query based on primary key, right? Now just tell me how many queries will be fired in this scenario. How many queries will be fired now? I am calling session.get user with 3. I want to get a user whose primary key is 3. I said whenever I fire get session.get, it will fire a select query. And again, after printing first name, after doing some more work, again I'm calling session.get with same primary key. Will it result in 2 select queries or only 1 select query? Only 1. Very good. Correct. Let us see what will happen. Yes, it has fired only 1 select query, right? Why? Yes, correct. So once I said session.get, it has fired the query, it got the user object, and the user object is kept inside persistence context. If an object is in persistence context, we say that it is in persistent state. So we are now understanding about different states of an entity. Once an object is associated with session, then we say that it is in persistent state. Right? Okay, let me just write the state name here. persistent. I'll introduce slowly all the states. Persistent state. And as I said, persistence context or session object is said to be the first level cache, right? So already when I executed session.get for the first time, user object whose primary key is 3 is already in the first level cache. Whenever I say session.get again, before firing the query, Hibernate will check whether there is user object with primary key 3 inside first level cache. If yes, it will not go to the database, it will always pick it from the cache. So now here, by the use of first level cache, we have avoided another second query, right? So it will definitely increase the performance, right? So this is the importance of first level cache. First level cache is mandatory in Hibernate, which is by default, and second level cache is not mandatory, and second level cache is disabled by default. If we want, we have to enable it selectively for only few entities. Later we'll see how to make a decision of whether to enable second level caching or not. But right now first level cache is mandatory, second level cache is optional, just remember this. Okay, next, once you understand this, tell me the answer. Now I'm going to ask you another question. I said session.get user whose primary key is 3, then I printed the first name, then I'm going to modify the user object. User dot set country. Previously the country was India, now I am setting it as Pakistan, our favorite country, Pakistan. So now tell me, in the database the country will be India or Pakistan once I execute it? Why I didn't ask the Hibernate to update, fire an update query? So now I just run it right now. Before running, I'll show here the country is India only, refresh. But now I'll fire the query. See, automatically an update statement is fired, right? Why this select query? Because of session.get, I said. This update query is automatically fired, but I never told to Hibernate to fire an update query. Now, what is happening here, right? See here, once after executing this line, user object is in persistent state, right? If an entity is in persistent state, and if that is modified, if that entity is modified, then Hibernate will treat that entity as dirty entity. Will treat that object as dirty, and whenever we are trying to commit the transaction, Hibernate will detect all the dirty objects and try to propagate the changes to the database. This feature provided by Hibernate is called as automatic dirty checking feature. Sure. Automatic dirty checking. Okay, I'll explain what is automatic dirty checking. If an entity is in persistent state, here if you see, after this line is executed, user entity is in persistent state. If an entity is in persistent state, any changes made to that persistent entity, if we make any changes to that persistent entity, then that entity is treated as dirty object. It will mark that object as dirty, and whenever we try to commit the transaction, just before committing, Hibernate will check, is there any dirty object in my cache? If any dirty object is there, it will automatically result in an update statement being fired, right? So here I am not telling Hibernate to update it, right? Automatically Hibernate is detecting the dirty objects, right? So this feature provided by Hibernate is called as automatic dirty checking. Okay, I can put it in another word, in different words. See here, once an entity is in persistent state, I can say that Hibernate is going to manage that object. Whatever happens to that object, it's a Hibernate responsibility to sync that object with the database. right? So I can say that persistent entities are managed by Hibernate, right? Managed by Hibernate means, once I say that an entity is managed by Hibernate, it is the duty of Hibernate framework to make sure that this object is in sync with the database. Means if this object is modified, automatically it should result in update statement being fired, right? So simply to put, Hibernate will manage all the persistent entities. Hibernate provides transparent persistence. This word is used everywhere. What do I mean by transparent? Transparent means what? Without knowing, right? If you can see this user.java file, this user.java file does not know that it is going to be persisted, because user.java is not implementing any Hibernate specific interfaces, nothing. It is just a normal POJO, a normal Java class, right? So this object does not know that it is going to be persisted, right? Hibernate, if I give this object to Hibernate, Hibernate will take care of persisting the object state to database, right? So persistence is handled by Hibernate transparently. This object does not know even that they are being persistent. That's why we call it as transparent persistence, right? Now coming back, we understood how automatic data checking is working, right? Now I will show you how to explicitly tell to Hibernate to update an entity. Here automatically update query is fired because the object is made dirty. Now if you want to explicitly say Hibernate to update, how to do it? Just I will write a separate file for this, because I am going to reuse this code, update demo. And then I'll just copy paste. Here I am going to create a user object. Just see now, user u is equals to new user u dot set id to 3. Already there is a user whose id is 3 in the database, and u dot set first name to x, u dot set last name to y. Okay, I am not setting city and country right now, you could set it also. But now tell me, for this object, is there a corresponding row inside the database? Yes, we always refer to by using primary key, right? There is a user whose ID is 3, but these values are different because I have set it differently. So for this object, there is a corresponding row inside the database. But right now, is it associated with any session? No. Such objects are called as detached objects, and that object is said to be in detached state. So we understood here about persistent state. The next state which I am going to introduce is detached. Detached state means there is corresponding row in the database. But not associated with session, right? So if there is an object which has a corresponding row in the database but it is not associated with any session, then we say that the object is in detached state. Means Hibernate is not going to manage such objects. Hibernate is going to manage only persistent objects. Okay, now what I can do is, after opening a session, I can say session dot update and pass the user object u. Now what I am telling to do is, I am telling to Hibernate to fire an update query by using the primary key, right? Session dot update. Let us see whether update query is fired or not. Yes, update query is fired and it has set all the first name, last name, everything based on primary key. Now if I go to the database, first name will be X and last name will be Y. I'll refresh it. City and country are null because I didn't set them. So session dot update, once I say session dot update, now tell me, update query is fired by the Hibernate, right? After this statement, what is the state of u? Now it is associated with a session. So now if you call session dot update, a detached object will become persistent. Okay. Here we need to understand about some few issues, some few common mistakes which we do and how to overcome them. Okay, I'm generating a scenario now. Just tell me the answer, what will happen. Session dot get user dot class whose primary key is 3. Now tell me, is there any issue here? See, this user object is different, right? Once I said session dot get, this will fire a select query or not? It will create a user object with ID 3 and that will be in the persistence context. It will be in persistent state. Then what I am doing, I am saying session dot update you again. So it will try to make this object persistent, right? But already there is an object with same ID. Already there is a user object with same ID in the cache persistence context, right? So it is conflicting. So it will throw an exception. Let us see now what will happen. See, exception, no unique object. Exception, a different object with same identifier was already associated with session, right? Select query was fired when I said session dot get, but whenever I am saying session dot update, it is throwing an exception saying non-unique object. So in persistence context, objects should be unique, right? Just analyze this scenario for some time. Again I am generating a scenario. what if you give this session dot get after update? Huh? Let us see. What will happen now? Session dot get. As I said, session dot get will first see whether this is in persistence cache. If you update, this will be in persistence cache. So it's there already. It will not go to the database and it will not fetch a new object. So both user reference and you will be referring to same object. Both references. You and user will be referring to same object inside the persistence cache. No problem. Right? Okay. Next thing here. What if I say session dot insert? Sorry, session dot save. What will happen? Will it work or not? It will work. No, it will try to save a user whose ID is 3, but already in my database there is a user, right? So let us see now. Okay. It has been automatically generated. If I have kept it as assigned, see why it took a new ID as 4. Because it is automatically, even though I give the value 3, it will take a new value when I say save, right? If I have given here assign, then it will take the value given by me, right? Okay, assuming that I have given assign. If I have given assign, session.save will try to insert a user whose ID is 3, which will give a problem, right? Now, sometimes we don't know whether an entity is already in DB or not. In that cases, what we can do is, we can use, instead of using session.save, we can use session.save or update u. Now, what this save or update will do? If there is no user with ID 3 in the database, it will fire an insert statement. If there is user with same ID in database, it will fire update statement. So Hibernate will decide whether to fire an insert query or update query. So normally we always use session.save or update. Okay? Any doubts? See this code. Now, user object is in persistent state after this line is executed, right? Here I am closing the session, and here I will say user dot set city to Bangalore. Tell me, after I execute it, what will be the city in the database? Bangalore? No, why? Session is closed. Session is closed. Once we close the session, the persistent object is no more associated with session. And is there a row corresponding to this user object whose ID is 3? So it is in which state? Detached state, right? So after the session is closed, all the persistent entities will come to detached state, right? Now, without closing session, I want to make a user object detached. Let us see how to use it. Session dot, there is a method. Yes. Session dot evict user. If I say session dot evict, what it will do is, it will evict, it will remove this user from the cache. So now, after I say session dot evict, the user object will become detached, right? Now, once the user is detached, if I modify the city of user, now tell me what will be the city, what will be the value of city? Is Bangalore? No. Right? Once the object is detached, Hibernate no more manages it. Hibernate will manage only persistent entities. It will not manage detached entities, right? Detached entities are said to be unmanaged by Hibernate. They are not managed by Hibernate. So, once you say session.awake, this will become detached. Okay. It will remove the object from session. It is no more associated with session, but this has corresponding row inside the database. It is not deleted from the database. It has corresponding row in the database, but it is not associated with session. Yes. So that's about detached objects. Okay. And in session, suppose there are 100 objects, 100 entities. How to detach all the entities? This will detect, session.awake will detach only one entity. But if I want to detach all the entities present in session, I can say session.clear. Okay? Session.clear will clear the whole session. Means all the persistent entities will become detached. So we understood about two states in Hibernate, right? Detached and persistent. Now one more state. Coming to the previous demo.java, here I am creating a new object. Is it having a corresponding row inside the database at this point? No. Until I say session.serve? No. Means for this entity, there is no corresponding row inside the database, and it is not associated with any, so then it is said to be in transient state. Okay, the third state, transient. Now let me clearly tell you what is the difference between transient state and detached state. So tell me, in transient state, is it associated with session? Not associated with session. Or persistence context, I can say. And is there a row in the database? No row in DB. But for detached, is it associated with database, detached entity? Is it associated with any session? Detached means not associated. Is there a row in database? That is the difference. Corresponding row is in David, right? Okay, these are the important three states. Huh? And now the next scenario here, I'll show you how to delete. Till now we understood how to fire insert query, update query, and select query. Now how to fire a delete query. You can see here, tell me here, once I say session.get, it will fire a select query and user object is associated with the session, right? Now I want to delete it, simply session.delete user. This will result in a delete query, session.delete. Okay. Now after this line, what it will do is, it will remove that user object from the session, right? But after this line, is the delete query fired immediately? No. No insert queries, update queries, delete queries are not fired until transaction is committed. So this policy followed by Hibernate is called as transactional write behind policy. Transactional write behind policy, right? So what is the advantage of this transactional write behind policy? It will propagate the changes to the database as late as possible, so that it can fire all the statements as a single batch, right? I might have saved some 10 entries here or deleted some 10 entries. If it is propagating, if it is postponing the propagation to the database as late as possible, it can fire all the queries as a batch. Batch statements will always increase the performance. And one more thing is, tomorrow we are going to learn about how to manage foreign key relationships. One to many, many to one we are going to configure tomorrow, right? In that case, if we are saving two entities which are related with each other, right? If I save an entity which is having a foreign key before the another entity which is dependent on it, order is different, right? So the order of execution of queries will be taken care by Hibernate, because all the queries are fired at the last, right? So the order of execution of queries will be taken care by Hibernate because of this transactional write behind policy. Let me make it clear with an example. Let us say one to many relationship. Say one classroom has one training room has many employees. Let's assume there are many training rooms here. One training room is having many employees. So there is a one to many relationship between training room and employees, right? Which is many side. Many employee side is a many side, right? Foreign key will always go to the many side. Remember, tomorrow we will be going to discuss everything in detail. Foreign key will always go to many side, employee side, right? So let's assume I created training room object, and I created 10 employee objects, right? So first, which object should I save? Training, because this primary key should go as a foreign key there, right? But what I did is I saved all the employees first. 10 employees, session not save 10 employees, and at the last I saved training room, right? Now it will try to fire insert queries for employees first, right? But there is a foreign key which is required, which will cause a foreign constraint violation. Foreign key, sometimes it cannot be null, but as it is postponing the query firing till the last, Hibernate will decide the best order, in which order to fire, so that it can avoid foreign key constraint violations, right? Okay, tomorrow you will get a very good idea about it, right? So by using transactional write behind policies, Hibernate will try to postpone the database synchronization as late as possible, so that it can fire batch statements which will increase the performance. Okay, that's about transaction write behind. And now coming to session.delete. Here, as I said, whenever I say session.delete, delete query is queued, right? But once I say session.delete, is this user object removed from session? It will be removed from session, but database delete will not be executed immediately. It will be executed at this line. So from here to here, user object is not associated with session, but it has a corresponding row in the database, and also it has been scheduled for deletion, right? So from here to here we say that this entity is in removed state. Removed state means it is scheduled for deletion. It will be deleted once the transaction is completed. Then we say that it is in removed state. Once we say session.delete, the entity is in removed state. So 4 states in Hibernate, but mostly these three states are important. We'll never care about removed state, right? Okay, let me just complete this removed state again. Removed state, after session dot delete and before committing the transaction, entity is in removed state. So these are the 4 states. Removed state was introduced only in Hibernate 3. Earlier versions of Hibernate, removed state was not there. They have introduced removed state in Hibernate 3. Right? Is there any use if I modify removed object? See, after I said session.delete, if I modify user object, is there any use? No, it is anyway going to get deleted. Right? So we should normally should not use removed objects because it's of no use. It will be anyway going to get deleted. Right? Okay. That's about the various states. Any doubts? You can discuss. Now, if you see this program, here user object whose ID is in persistent state, right? Now, once I close the session or once I evict it, it is in detached state, right? So, how to attach it again? Session dot save will fire an insert query. Session dot update. Session dot update will make a detached object persistent. Now I have a doubt now. Wait. Now see here, session.evict will make the user object detached. When the object is detached, I am modifying it. Okay. When user object is detached, I am modifying it. Will it be treated as dirty now? No, because it is in detached state, right? And then again I am saying session.update. Session.update, what it will do? It will make this user object again persistent, right? And as I am using update, it will result in an update query with whatever changes made to that object. It will assume that you have modified that object. It will result in an update query. So session.update is doing 2 things. It is making a detached object persistent, and also it is queuing the update query. It will result in an update query to be fired. Then the country Bangalore will be there in the database. So this change will be propagated to the database. So session.update is doing 2 things: making a detached entity persistent and also firing update statements. Okay. Save or update also will do this. Very good. So that's the next point which I am going to deal with. See now, I have modified when the user object is detached here. After session.evict, the user object is detached. When the user object is detached, I made some changes, right? But after the session.update, whatever changes I have made when it is detached are going to the database. She doesn't want it, right? Just the object should come from detached to persistent. Now there is another way. Instead of using session.update or session.save or update, there is another way. Session.lock. See, lock. Session.lock session dot lock, I'll say user comma lock mode. Second one is lock mode. I'll say lock mode dot, I'll say none. It is deprecated in the latest version. Session dot lock, it was available till session till 3.3 also, but now it is deprecated. Session dot lock, let me explain what it will do. Session dot lock, what it will do is it will make a detached entity persistent, but whatever changes made to the detached entity before will not be reflected, will not be propagated to the database. So now whatever change I made to this detached object will not be going to the database. If you don't commit, then nothing will go to the database. It will be there in the memory, but will not go to the database. So in lock, when you are saying lock, even if you commit, a change is made before locking it, the complexity will not be propagated to the database. Okay. Actually, this is called as pessimistic locking. So later we'll talk about transaction management API. Okay. In transaction management, there are various ways of locking objects: optimistic locking and pessimistic locking. Pessimistic locking will always take a lock on the object. Locking an object means decreasing the performance, because other threads have to wait for the lock, right? So they discourage pessimistic locking. This is pessimistic locking. We are locking that object for this transaction. Until the transaction is completed, no other threads can use that row. No other threads can update it. So other threads have to wait until the lock is released. So this is discouraged. So that's why it is deprecated. Okay. And lock mode dot none, I said, right? It will not take any lock anyway. There are various lock modes. We'll talk about pessimistic locking when talking about transaction management in Hibernate. Okay, any doubts? Any other doubts? If you say session.get, it is firing insert queries, right? Sorry, select queries and getting the populating the entity, right? Okay, but there is another way to get an entity by using primary key session.load. Session.load will load the entity lazily, I'll say. What do I mean by lazy loading? I'll explain. Lazy loading means the object will not be loaded until and unless it is required. Only whenever we try to access the properties of that object, then only it will be loaded. Now let me give you an example of this one. Now see here, I am saying session.load. Okay, will it fire a select query or not? You are expecting it to fire a select query. Let me run it and show you. No, select query is not fired, even though I said load. What is happening? Whenever I say session.load, load will not return me an actual user object, but it will return me a proxy of user object. What is a proxy? Proxy is an object which behaves as if it is a original object, right? So session.load will not return me the original object. It will return me the proxy object. Whereas session.get will return me the original object. Now what is the advantage of this proxy? What is so great about this proxy? Let us see here. Now before going ahead, let me just change it to session.get. Now I will show you. I will run it. Is it firing select query? But just check in my code. I said session.get, but am I using this user object? No, I am not printing it also. Even though I am not using, session.get is automatically firing the query, right? Now, will it not be good if the select query is fired only when I try to access it, right? So that is done by load. Now let me change it to load. As I showed you, if I run it, query is not fired because I didn't use user object, right? Now I said session.load will return me the proxy, and the proxy will be having only the ID because I am asking it to load based on primary key, right? So user will be having only the value of ID, the proxy will be having only the primary key value, right? So now if I say system.out.println user.get user ID, now tell me, will it fire a select query or not? Now it will fire? No. It just printed because without firing a query only it knows about what is the primary key, right? Because we are asking to load a user whose primary key is 3. Didn't fire the primary key also. Proxy is always having primary key. Now if I try to access first name, system.out.println user.get first name, now will it fire select query? Because in the proxy first name is not there, it has to get it from the database only. Now let us see. Yes, it has fired a select query, then it printed X. The value in the database is X. So what did we understand? This proxy user is, this reference is pointing to a proxy of user. Proxies generated by Hibernate are intelligent enough to initialize themselves on demand. Means whenever we try to access a particular method on the proxy on demand, proxies initialize themselves. So proxies created by Hibernate will be able to initialize themselves on demand. So until and unless I try to access that object really, queries are not fired. So that is the meaning of lazy loading. If it is required, then only it will be loaded, otherwise it will not be loaded. But you will be having a reference. You can use this object like as if it is the original object only, right? So performance is definitely increased if you are using lazy loading, right? So this is one more facility, lazy loading. We can enable or disable lazy loading. Okay. Any other doubts? We will get even good idea about lazy loading once we see associations, one-to-many associations, one-to-many relationships. Even we can appreciate lazy loading a lot. Here you are not able to see much difference. It is just a simple select query, right? But later once you see one-to-many, it will be a big performance improvement if you are using lazy loading during relationships. I have a doubt. What if I print this statement after closing the session? Tell me. See now, here I got the proxy. This is a proxy. Is the proxy initialized at this time? No, because ID, its proxy is already having. But session is closed. Session is closed means connection also is closed. Then if I am trying to print, this proxy will try to initialize itself, right? But connection is already. So it should throw an exception. Let us see. See, an exception. Lazy initialization could not initialize proxy because no session, right? So proxies should be initialized before closing the session only, right? A common mistake which we do in our applications is, generally what we do, we fetch some data from the database DO layer, pass it to the upper layer, service layer or presentation layer. In presentation layer, generally we will try to print those values, or service layer will try to access it, right? But before you try to access it in your service layer or presentation layer, in your DO layer already the session might have been closed. So be careful when you are using lazy loading, because proxies cannot initialize themselves if the session is already closed, right? And there are various ways of managing sessions or transactions. The transaction can span over the request also. Once the request comes and the response goes back, you can make sure that the session is alive, and once the response goes back, session can be closed automatically by the framework. So there are various ways of configurations which we will see later. Okay. 1 minute. Now session.load gave you a proxy, right? If you try to access any property of it, the proxy will be initialized automatically, right? But I'll just show you another option. Hibernate dot initialize. There's a class called Hibernate and there's a static method called initialize, for which we can pass a proxy. Hibernate or initialize will automatically initialize the proxy without accessing any property, right? So this is the way to initialize a proxy. Suppose if you have got a proxy in your DO layer, and if you want to propagate it to above layers, so first initialize it, right, by using hibernate.initialize. This is one of the options. Then after initializing the proxy, you can